Are you having trouble sleeping lately? I know I am, with anxiety about everything. So I was curious to find out about the Sleep Hub from Cambridge Sleep Sciences. It's a premium white noise machine that actually reprograms your brain while you sleep to put it into the correct sleep phase. Seriously. So, dear viewer, please join me, James Bruce, with MakeYourself.com reviews today as I invite you into my boudoir to see if the Sleep Hub really works to improve your sleep using sound. Spoiler alert, it's definitely doing something. So first up, what qualifies me to comment on this sort of science? Formally, I don't have any relevant qualifications, of course. I'm not a sleep scientist, but I have spent much of my life researching sleep. From a very young age, I kept dream diaries and I dabble in lucid dreaming. Now, this involves a lot of learning about sleep cycles, when dreams are likely to occur, what sort of things will prevent that, how to dream more and how to remember your dreams better. So I'm broadly familiar with the science of sleep, and I'd like to think that I'm also smart enough to sort through the pseudoscience and tell you honestly if something is nonsense or not. All right, so what do you get in the Sleep Hub package? Well, firstly, you get two of these large, heavy, egg-shaped speakers, plus the base unit, a power supply, and two lovely braided RCA cables, one of which is shorter of the two, about 1 meter long, and the other much longer, about 3 or 4 meters. Plenty long enough to go from one side of a double bed to the other anyway. Then the shorter cable is used to connect this speaker closest to the base station. The base unit runs a custom Android install, which is completely locked down, a sort of kiosk mode. The screen will sleep after a very short period of time, about 10 seconds of inactivity, and it wakes up immediately with a tap. So it's very simple to use. It's basically running all of the time. It's not battery powered, so it will need to stay plugged in. So using the Sleep Hub is ridiculously simple. Just tap to wake up the display, then slide to open up the main screen, or just hit play to start your sleep session. There's a settings panel where you can connect it to Wi-Fi, which supposedly helps to keep it up to date, though I haven't seen an update yet, and it's still on version 1. There's no other network features as far as I can tell. You can't download additional soundscapes or anything like that. Pretty much what you see is what you get. Other options you can configure, though, are the sound levels, either of the soundscape, the tones, the sleeping sound, the alarm, and then the balance between the left and right. You can configure the time zone, of course. You want this clock to be accurate, given that it's got an alarm. And then you can choose your preferred soundscape. So in terms of soundscapes available, you can choose brown, pink, white, train noises, wind, stream, ocean, or rain. And that's the full selection. There's also a number of alarm sounds you can choose. They're all fairly calming. None of them are particularly offensive. So then we come to actually sleeping with it, and there are 4 different modes on offer here. The first, Deep Sleep, is a set 8-hour program which is designed to train your brain into the ideal perfect sleep cycle pattern. If you can get the full 8 hours, then that's the perfect program to use and the ideal setting. The second program is Easy Sleep, and this is a more adaptive one. So you can set an alarm, hit start, and it will adjust the program to suit your exact schedule. Obviously, you might not always have 8 hours, so this is great if you need to be a little bit more dynamic with your sleep, but also have a set alarm time to wake up at. Then there's the Fall Asleep mode, and this is rather than a full night of brain training and noise, this is just a 2-hour program which is designed to push you into that initial deep sleep phase and hopefully kickstart a good night's sleep. It's fine for people who sleep through the night but perhaps just have trouble getting into sleep in the first place. Finally, you have a power nap mode, which, as it suggests, is for 30, 45, 60-minute power naps and hopefully leaves you feeling a bit refreshed. All right, let's talk about the science behind all of this. I'm not going to go over the benefits of sleep because that's pretty well established, and I doubt you'd be watching this review otherwise. But there's 2 things going on with the Sleep Hub that we should talk about. The first is a simple noise track. Contrary to popular belief, not all noise is bad for sleep. Some noises, like alarms, of course, dogs barking, things like that that are designed to get your attention aren't good. The brain is wired to pay attention to those, of course, but continuous repetitive noises can in fact help. Things like a fan, a washing machine, the rain, they don't interrupt our brain and they don't trigger any of those psychological alert states. In fact, they help to mask out unwanted noises. Now, while a babbling brook, for instance, isn't quite my choice of sleep track, I do find, say, the train sounds, travelling sounds, to be quite soothing. I've also slept in the past with brown noise Spotify tracks, so I know they do help. And if you're wondering what the difference between white, pink and brown noise is, basically it's just a matter of what frequencies are in there. So white noise is almost exclusively high-pitched, brown noise is the lowest, bassier one, and pink noise is somewhere in between both white and brown. This device can do all of them depending on your personal preference. Then again, the concept of a noise soundtrack isn't unique to this device. You can easily, as I say, get noise for sleep tracks on Spotify. Perhaps play those through a decent smart speaker, so that alone isn't anything remarkable or unique here that justifies the price. But secondly, you have what Cambridge Sleep Sciences calls pure tones, though you might be more familiar with the term binaural beats, monaural beats, or even isochronic tones. They're all very similar concepts, but basically you have two sound waves that play a particular tone, and those sound waves will be different, and the difference corresponds to the frequency that your brain operates on during various cycles. The idea being that by playing different frequencies, you can induce a brain state, sort of synchronize your brain up to the difference. And that's the secret sauce that you get in the Sleep Hub device. The way that it will modulate those frequencies at the right times to induce the ideal cycles of sleep. Now again, you could just get a deep sleep tones track from Spotify, but that doesn't help you to get a full night's sleep because you shouldn't be deep sleeping the whole night. The REM stage is critical to memory function. In as far as the brain has different sleep stages and it cycles through those stages each night in increasing frequency, the science is well established. Tracking of various sleep stages is very much possible even with consumer hardware, and it's been shown that as you get further into your sleep, your REM stage lengthens, which is why dreaming occurs more in the latter stages of the night and why getting a minimum 7 hours is essential for optimal brain function, because you really need your dreams in order to tidy up the brain, to shift things into long-term memory, to play back the events of the day, that sort of thing. It's also been shown that the brain does operate at different frequencies during each different stage of sleep. So essentially how alert or awake it is. The brain activity during REM is much like it is in normal life, which makes perfect sense. Dreaming is, after all, the exact same neural activity as you would have in waking life. The only difference is that your body is paralyzed and your critical thinking is reduced, hence why most people don't know that they're dreaming. Whereas in deep sleep, the whole brain literally slows down and operates on a much lower frequency. What's less well established scientifically is whether your brain can be induced into a state by using those frequency tones. Specifically, the process is called auditory brainwave entrainment. And there have been a number of small-scale studies into their effectiveness, both on the sleep side of things with delta waves inducing more deep sleep, and on the wakefulness side of things with theta waves inducing better memory recall. Now again, these aren't massive, large-scale studies, it's a pretty niche topic, but it does appear that brain entrainment through audio is possible. I will add, however, a quick note here that when it comes to adjusting your mood, your emotions, things like using binaural beats to make you feel better, the science is more clear that that's completely a placebo effect. It doesn't happen, basically because frequencies have no relevance to emotions, only to operating frequencies of your brain, not to emotions. But for the sake of entrainment, to make the brain operate at a specific frequency during specific sleep stages, I do think there's some solid evidence for it. Now, the Sleep Hub creators also say that playing these tones to both the left and the right ear helps to synchronize and strengthen the connection between your left and right sides of the brain, thereby increasing a whole host of brain functions that require both hemispheres to cooperate. But that's something that's much more difficult to prove one way or the other. I can't find any evidence for that, and I mostly sleep on my side anyway, so I couldn't even give you anecdotal evidence for that. Now, while I couldn't find any published papers done by the Cambridge Sleep Science team specifically, their website does mention an independent study done to verify the effectiveness, in which they claim for people who had a history of at least 3 months of insomnia, 92% of those saw an improvement on average of 155 minutes more time asleep, 76 minutes less time awake, and 55% reduction in times that they were awoken during the night. So that's some impressive data. And they're about to do another clinical trial to validate those results, which will be published. So moving on to my experience with the Sleep Hub. Does it actually work? Generally speaking, I'm a good sleeper anyway. I don't need an alarm. I just typically wake up 7 or 8 hours after I fall asleep. But I do sometimes find it hard to fall back asleep. If, say, I've got up to pee or the dog wants to go out, my mind often wakes up, starts talking, and just won't shut up. So I think the main benefit to me of the Sleep Hub was something to help numb out those thoughts, give me something else to concentrate on and calm me down, to silence them. And in that respect, it completely worked. However, to try and be a bit more empirical about these things, because that's meaningless, I used a third-party sleep tracking app called Pillow, and that got data from my Apple Watch, which is pretty good for sleep tracking given the wealth of sensors that it contains. As a baseline point of comparison, I pulled some sleep stats from a few months ago. I didn't use the data immediately prior to using the Sleep Hub because it had been particularly bad. The dog was waking me up 4 or 5 times a night. It wouldn't have been a fair comparison. So just to be clear from the outset, I have tried to pick and choose dates where I thought things were normal. You know, I wasn't heavily drinking or staying up particularly late playing a game. I've tried to grab the normal days. So over the course of 3 days back in September, I had an average of 6 hours and 45 minutes of sleep, and that was with an average 73% sleep score. I don't know precisely what that sleep score is, but suffice to say it'll be the same for all my data, so you can compare that. And I think that's pretty good, actually. I also then took data during, let's call it a training stage with the Sleep Hub. Obviously, the first week of using something like this, you may find it actually wakes you up more than often, purely because it's a novel device. And as humans, we are creatures of habit, so you should expect a period of adjustment where you get used to sleeping with it. Sure enough, I got an average of 6 hours, 15 minutes and a reduced quality of 68%, so not great. So I'm just putting that out there to say that there will be a period of adjustment, no more than a week or a couple of days, and I'm not going to hide that fact from you. But finally, we get to the good part, where I took more data after I'd got used to sleeping with the Sleep Hub. And here's what I found. Again, this is from a third-party app called Pillow. Takes data from the Apple Watch. It has nothing to do with Sleep Hub, so any of the data and the percentages that are calculated use that app's algorithm, and they shouldn't be biased or connected to this at all. So this was at various dates before Christmas. I took the data over 6 different nights and again averaged that out and discarded any dates where I'd been, it was Christmas, come on, don't judge. So that data showed an improved 7 hours average sleep time and 81% average score. Now, just as a quick test, I then turned the Sleep Hub off and didn't use it again for a couple more sort of normal days to see how we got. And sure enough, my average went down to 6.5 hours sleep, albeit at about 80% quality. Now, of course, this isn't a controlled study. My data isn't peer reviewed. This is just me taking some days from where I happen to be wearing my Apple Watch. It's a small sample size, so I completely understand if you want to discredit and say that was nonsense. But for me, it showed a clear improvement that I've seen using the Sleep Hub, which honestly, I was not expecting. So completely anecdotally, on days when I'm using this, I do actually feel like I'm sleeping better, longer. And even if I do still wake up at night, this helps me get back to sleep quickly and to not interrupt the stages and those phases of sleep. I've added more to my dream journal over the past month than in the past 6, which means I'm hitting those REM phases more and I'm waking up feeling more refreshed and remembering more dreams. So getting back to a decent night's sleep is great. Okay, let's talk about audio quality. Although the Sleep Hub isn't obviously marketed as just a nice pair of speakers to play music on, it's not portable, it's clearly not designed to use on your desktop or anything like that. It does, however, offer Bluetooth connectivity. So you can enjoy a bit of music in bed. Perhaps your wake-up routine involves some classic Wham or a bit of Velvet. Acid Christ, I'm not judging. The upshot of this is that I can also check the standard quality of sound using sort of normal testing tools and music that I'm familiar with, rather than just rain noises. And the sound quality from these is honestly, it's divine. The highs and mids are so crisp, it almost feels dirty. If you're a fan of ASMR, I think you'll really like these too. For audiobooks, of course, these are also amazing. The bass is well defined, and for the size, it is very impressive, though personally, I still found the low end to be a little bit lacking. But I mean, I'm the sort of person who puts a bass shaker on their sofa to actually thump you around during movies, so I might be a bit extreme in my preferences there. For the intended purpose anyway of brown noise, those pure tone beats and streams, waves, rain noises, etc., it really doesn't get better than this. However, I will say that there's a noticeable latency when using the Bluetooth with video. This isn't uncommon with wireless transmission, but I don't think it's the latest Bluetooth codecs or anything, so probably best to use it with just music and audiobooks rather than trying to watch movies and YouTube on it. So finally we get to the most important question. Should you buy the Sleep Hub? Will it help you sleep better? I can't promise you that. It certainly helped me to get a better night's sleep, but your experience may of course vary. It is an expensive device, but then again, you can't put a price on a good sleep routine. Is it, however, going to solve every kind of sleep problem around? Not at all. Will it actually reprogram your brain? Who knows? I'm clearly not qualified to say that, purely that anecdotally it worked for me. And they are fantastic sounding speakers, ridiculously easy to use product, so you don't need to fiddle with your phone at all. It just works. My only complaint would be a lack of variety in features. What it does very well, but it feels like there's so much more that it could be. More soundscapes, for instance. There was only really two that we enjoyed, the pure brown noise and the train tracks. For shorter sessions, a guided sort of meditation series would be a fantastic addition and wouldn't be that hard to implement. Products like Morphe have done this very well. The Sleep Hub feels like a very singularly focused product, but as a sleep hub, I would have liked to see more added to encompass all aspects of sleep and relaxation. Maybe even the ability to track your sleep with a USB add-on thing that slides under your mattress so you could opt into sleep experiments that validate the science behind it. Perhaps even 1 night out of 7, it would not play the tones after you'd fallen asleep, and then it would record if that actually made a difference. I'm not sure if there's an ethical concern there, but anyway, there are so many possibilities that it could have been and isn't. Unfortunately, when I spoke to Sleep Hub, they said that there weren't any planned firmware updates and that the Soundscape database on this couldn't be updated, which does make me wonder why I connected it to Wi-Fi at all. That said, they have a new product on the way called the Sleep Anywhere, which is a portable device and can be paired with whatever sound output that you want. So either your own decent pair of speakers or some in-ear buds that you sleep with. Whatever you want, it will have app connectivity as well, rather than a built-in touchscreen. So this should bring the overall price down significantly and make it a lot more accessible to more people. That one will also have the ability to download other soundscapes, and that's expected to launch somewhere in spring. So if you like the sound of this and want to give it a try but don't want to spend the full whack on this, then it's well worth waiting till spring. Also, for those of you who want to DIY your own solution, I will say that I found a full 8-hour sleep program using Isochronic Beats on YouTube. It's completely free. It's from a channel, a guy called Jason Liu, Mind Amends. You could play that through your own set of decent speakers you already own, mix it with your choice of brown noise, and perhaps have the same effect on your sleep as the Sleep Hub. If you're on a budget anyway, it's well worth trying that before you invest in this. Ultimately, what makes the Sleep Hub stand out is the sheer ease of use. Tap, slide, play. The simplicity of the features. You're not going to get a mail or Slack notification or any other distractions. There's no fussing around before bed with an app or making sure that the battery is charged. The hardware is premium quality, it's great sounding, and it's just a fantastic all-in-one unit for better sleep, which did genuinely help me and does seem to work. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you learned something during this video or found it helpful in deciding if the Sleep Hub is the solution you're looking for to help you sleep better. Do hit like if it did, and consider subscribing for more reviews of weird and wonderful tech, as well as normal tech too. From all of us over at makeuseof.com. Sweet dreams.